Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's January 16th. It is 2024. We have a 3-game NBA slate to talk about here on today's podcast, riding solo today with only 3 games. Hope everyone had a fantastic football wild card weekend. What a wild weekend it was. I can't believe some of the upsets that we saw this weekend. Obviously, I think a lot of people kind of expected Cleveland to beat Houston, and Houston blew them out, and then Green Bay blowing out Dallas in that game. And then, here on Monday, we had Tampa Bay beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia really struggled down the stretch just in general, and you could really just see how much they were missing some of those key players in that game against Tampa. But good for Tampa, good for Baker Mayfield. 330 yards, I think, and he threw like 3 touchdowns. So good for him to see him have a big game. Excited for the divisional round next weekend here, or this weekend coming up, with Houston and Baltimore, Green Bay and 49ers. And I can't wait for the Tampa-Detroit game and the Chiefs and Bills on Sunday. We got some phenomenal games. We'll talk about that later this week. We do have basketball, only 3 games on the docket here for this slate. Very interesting slate overall. I mean, this first game that we're going to talk about has a ton of news that we're going to be watching. So let's get started with that one. Denver at Philadelphia. 227 total here. Philly is a 4-point favorite. The whole starting lineup for Denver is questionable. KCP, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. So they're all questionable. It really seems like this is the potential to be a, maintenance day for Denver. Strother's out, so if we do get news that they are going to sit their starters here in this game, then obviously we're looking at this Denver side for value. Jackson, Braun, Watson. I don't know how much we would see DeAndre Jordan play, maybe around 25 minutes, but he's 3,300. He'd be a phenomenal value play. Justin Holiday's on this roster. He would probably play a good amount of minutes in this game. So waiting to see what we're going to do here, because it's going to dictate the whole slate. You're going to play so much value from this Denver side. I think Peyton Watson would be my favorite if everyone sits here. Him and Braun, I think, have the highest upside. I think DeAndre Jordan probably has a really high ceiling here as well at this $3,300 price tag. So Denver in general will be phenomenal, and there's going to be a lot to love in this spot for this team if we do get news that they're going to end up sitting these guys. So watch this news. If everyone plays, Jokic's minutes have been kind of on the downside. I know they've had a lot of blowout games here recently, but he really hasn't had that ceiling spot getting into that 70, 80 fantasy points. But it's a 3-game slate. Raw points are going to matter. He's definitely one of the top plays on the slate if he does end up playing in this game. I think Jamal Murray at 8,300 is very much in play. And then if I was going to choose between Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, I think this is a better matchup for Porter Jr., so I would prefer him. I will say, Philadelphia in general has been one of the best, 3-point percentage teams allowed this season, so not a great 3-point spot here just in general for Denver. So, I mean, I think KCP, if he plays, I'm not going to be playing a lot of him. On the Philadelphia side, it is a back-to-back for Philly. They did announce that Joel Embiid is expected to play the back-to-back. Melton's going to be out again. He's going to be out for about a week, so we know that he's going to miss this one. So if Embiid does end up playing again, raw points going to matter on a 3-game slate. So he's definitely another top-end play. If everyone sits on this Denver side, I definitely want to get some exposure to Embiid, but I'm a little bit more hesitant to play a lot of him just because I don't know if the game necessarily stays close. I think Maxey, even with raw points mattering, his point price is kind of up there. Tobias's price is still kind of bumped up from Embiid. Same with Oubre. So it's really Embiid for me. And then if you're playing 20 plus teams, I think you have to sprinkle in a little Maxey here as well, even with Embiid coming back at this price point. Sacramento at Phoenix, 243 total in this game. Phoenix is a 4.5-point favorite. Murray's questionable on the Sacramento side. Bol and Lee out for Phoenix. So looking at the Sacramento side here first, I mean, pace-wise, Phoenix likes to play slow. They are one of the better rebounding teams in the NBA. Defensively, they're middle of the road. Both of these teams are kind of middle of the road. We have a high total, and Sacramento is going to try to push the pace. I think that this is a great spot for De'Aaron Fox. He's averaging 51 fantasy points in 2 meetings this season against Phoenix. Sabonis is averaging 53 fantasy points in 2 meetings against Phoenix this season. So I think this is a spot we probably want to pay up for the 2 studs here in Sabonis and Fox. Especially if we get the value on the Denver side. If Keegan Murray ends up missing this game, I think we would see like a minutes bump, because like Kevin Huerter's minutes have been bumped already. So I think the minutes bump could potentially be a guy like Trey Lyles. So he's cheap. If we don't get all that Denver value, we could potentially take shots on Lyles if Murray ends up sitting and missing this game. So kind of pay attention to that one. Harrison Barnes' minutes are still kind of all over the place. His production's way down right now. So Sabonis, Fox, and then if Murray sits, I think you could take some shots on Lyles. On the Phoenix side, love this spot for Phoenix. Like I said, Sacramento is going to try to push the pace. Phoenix has the highest implied team total on the slate. Phoenix is in a great spot for 3-pointers here. We've talked about it a lot this season. Sacramento has really struggled defending the 3. We got the big 3 going here. Kevin Durant back playing, good to go. He's probably my least favorite of the 3. I think this is a really good spot for Devin Booker. I mean, his assist rate definitely going to be higher in this spot. I think it's a good spot for Bradley Beal as well. We're somewhat reliant on Bradley Beal's scoring, but this is a high upside scoring spot here for Bradley Beal. I wanted to talk about his 3-point prop, but I mean, it's like minus 180 for over 1.5. I almost kind of hope that they move this line to 2.5, because I still like the over on 2.5 with this 3-point matchup that he has here. So if they do end up moving this to 2.5, I think I'd still take it if we're getting good odds, but I don't know if I can take minus 180 for 1.5. More likely to take Bradley Beal's point prop here than to take the minus 180 on his 3-point prop. Grayson Allen gets a nice 3-point matchup as well. He's 5,800. If he can go for like 30 plus, I don't think he hurts you in this spot. And then as far as like Nurkic is concerned, he's okay. I'll say it. Outside of Embiid, I don't necessarily love centers on this slate. I guess Sabonis is a center technically now, so you could definitely play some Sabonis. You could play Holmgren in that, matchup that we're going to talk about next. So for Phoenix, I think I'd rank them Beal, Booker, Durant, and then Allen and Nurkic there to get some minutes and some extra run. But definitely one of my favorite teams on the slate, and ton of interest here in Beal and Booker. And we'll probably get some exposure to Durant somehow here as well. Might be some unders. We got Thunder at LA taking on the Clippers here. 236 total in this one. Clippers a 5-point favorite. Thunder, second end of a back-to-back. We know SGA was like a game-time decision with the knee, but was end up playing on Monday. So he should be good to go. I know knee sprains, he obviously could miss this game after playing on Monday, but had a really solid game on Monday. They ended up losing in that game, I think by 7 to the Lakers, but SGA ended with like 24 points and 6 assists. So definitely interested in SGA if he plays. If he sits, it's a huge bump to a lot of these players. Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, Holmgren, Dort, just Wallace. All these guys would get bumps if SGA is out. But if he plays, it's really SGA and Holmgren for me. Maybe a little bit of exposure to Josh Giddey. I think they kind of need Josh Giddey's size and matchups here, but Josh Giddey, his minutes are just kind of all over the place. Only played 22 minutes against the Lakers, and it wasn't foul trouble or anything. Holmgren got in a little bit of foul trouble, still ended up playing over 30 minutes. So just when Josh Giddey's not hitting shots, it doesn't seem like they give him minutes. They get Wallace and Joe involved. So I think it's SGA, Jalen Williams, Holmgren for me. And like I said, maybe a little Josh Giddey, because I do think the matchup is definitely good, Josh Giddey matchup. And then on the Clippers side, ton of interest here in Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi is one of the top plays on the slate. I mean, I think you want to get exposure to Kawhi, George, and Harden in this spot. And then with Zubac out, I would assume that Daniel Tice probably plays like 20 to 25 minutes here at 4,400. So could potentially be a good pivot off of the Denver spot. So I think the big three very, very much in play. And then Russell Westbrook did play 29 minutes the other night with Zubac out of the game. So maybe this is a spot you could take some shots on Russ, assuming that he's going to get more run here with no Zubac. Norman Powell got a little bit more run last game too. So I think the Clippers are going to try to go small as much as possible. But, I mean, Holmgren's going to potentially get 30-plus minutes here. So I think that's why you can take a few shots on Daniel Tice, depending on the Denver value. We rolled through that one. I know it was only 3 games, and when I'm solo, I talk fast. Sorry, but we rolled through that one. I did set up a morning grind game already, so let's do that, and then we'll get out of here. Quick podcast today, back for a normal slate. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm assuming Wednesday's slate's going to be a big slate. So, all right. Favorite play under 5K to go 7X. I'm going to go Peyton Watson. It just sounds like Denver's going to rest people here. So if Denver ends up resting everybody, I think Peyton Watson has a lot of upside here at 3,500. Really like him as a value play. If Denver doesn't rest people, I do think this is a spot you can take some shots on Daniel Tice. Over 8K to go under 5X. I'm going to go to Kevin Durant. Durant's production is definitely going to be affected by a healthy Bradley Beal and a healthy Devin Booker. Not going to need to score as much as he did at certain points of this season. He is 9,200. His price is coming down, and it's getting really close to being playable. But I think this is a spot I'd rather take Booker and Beal. Favorite 6X play today, I got Kawhi Leonard as my favorite 6X play. I absolutely love this spot for Kawhi going up against the Thunder. I think this is going to be a really good competitive basketball game. Kawhi is someone that rebounds, he gets assists, he gets stocks, and he's a guy that's going to score. So love this spot for Kawhi Leonard. And I mean, he's just been uber consistent recently, and pretty much for the last month or so, he's just been a guy we're looking at for 40 to 45 plus points every night. My Let's Get Weird GPP play of the day, I'm going to go Bradley Beal. It's really hard to get a Let's Get Weird GPP play on a 3-game slate, but I really like Bradley Beal for tournaments on this slate. So I'm going to talk about Beal in this spot. Again, just an uptick spot as far as pace is concerned. And I mean, this is a guy, 24% usage. He's averaging almost 18 points a night, and he's been dealing with injuries all year. So healthy Bradley Beal, almost a fantasy point per minute guy, gets a huge bump here going up against bad defense and a pace up spot. And going into my player props, I am going to take Bradley Beal's point prop here at 20.5. You can get it at minus 105 to minus 120 on most books, depending on where you're at. So I bet this a few minutes ago. Love the uptick spot here. So Bradley Beal over 20.5 points is my player prop. I don't have a bet that I'm really liking. I will say I don't hate taking Philadelphia -4 night before here and risking that Denver rest people. It is a back-to-back for Philly, but this line will be way, way, way different if all these players for Denver get ruled out. I mean, you're going to be looking at Philly probably minus like 11 or 12 here. So if you want to roll the dice a little bit and gamble that Denver's going to end up sitting people, I think this is it. This Philadelphia -4 line is very doable here. So I did I did roll the dice on that one and bet that one as well. But again, I think it's a little bit more riskier because you're really kind of hoping that Denver sits these guys. That's going to wrap it up here for Tuesday's podcast. Appreciate it, everyone. We're back on YouTube on Wednesday. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind YouTube page. Hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. We'll see you again tomorrow.